Okay, hello everybody, and today we are going to be talking about the assignment related to Island Morning by Jamaica Kincaid. You should have seen the assignment posted on the classroom. I'm going to talk a little bit and try to give you some ideas how I would go about this. So the unit really starts, it's a descriptive essay. Let's first make sure we understand that. It's not a piece of fiction. It's not a short story. This is her describing her own life experience in a very descriptive form. And, we talk a lot about what makes a place called a home. Not necessarily a house, but a home. And in the context of this story, that's really going to mean a lot because, a home is a place kind of where you feel you belong. It's a place where you identify with what is going on. You could live someplace and not consider it to be home because you don't feel that you belong, you don't identify with the place, you don't understand it. And that some people will tell you leave certain places, but they're always your home. This is something I always understand, as someone who, I grew up first 30 years of my life. I grew up went to school taught in Brooklyn, and moving from that to the suburbs, I still always kind of feel a little bit out of place. There's a familiarity to me, and that every time I go home, as I call it, I get it, and habits take over. I know how to drive around places, and I know exactly where I am the second I get there. So if you've ever moved, if this is not the place where you grew up in, you understand that feeling. I have that to a small extent. What Kincaid describes, having moved from Antigua to Manhattan, is tremendous. And that's a lot of what the purpose of this whole thing is to talk about what the difference between Manhattan and Antigua are. Are there similarities? Sure, they're both islands, but the size of them is tremendously different. Manhattan is something like, 33 square miles. Antigua is like 4 to 5 times the size of that. But the density is different. So you start to see where she goes about this. And you start comparing and contrasting the two, just looking at some of the artwork that this textbook decided to use to describe the difference between them. Look at something as simple as, the artwork here describing Antigua. And notice when Kincaid describes the home, all of the colors and all of the fruits. But meanwhile, when she describes Manhattan, she really describes it in terms of shades and grays and things of that nature. So yes, they are similar, but they are also wildly different in a lot of ways. Again, another very colorful representation of Antigua versus the, rather drab, even though there's color in here, the rather drab representation of the city. So I want to take a couple of minutes just to look at a few of the questions that you should have answered on your own at this point. Will hopefully help you to get some idea. What does she compare and contrast in this essay? We've already discussed that. It's Antigua and it's Manhattan. The fact that in Antigua, most people get up and start their day super early, 5:30 a.m. But like in Manhattan, she talks about the idea of calling people that early would be considered rude. And that she feels the only thing they share is a geographical definition. True and not true. We talk about patterns of organization, and in the thesis I posted to you, compare and contrast is the most important one she uses. Yes, she uses other ones. She definitely uses imagery, and really in the compare and contrast, it's in the imagery that she does it. She uses some amount of characterization. She does use symbolism, but for our purposes, I want to look at how she's using compare and contrast, why she's using it specifically. We talk about the author's perspective and how really, her experiences in Antigua, really, she does not give a very impressive feeling about Manhattan. And, her discussion of Manhattan is not complimentary. And a lot of that has to do with her experiences as a child in Antigua. That being said, what I showed you on the classroom was this. I actually filled it in for you because in other assignments I've done this before, so I've modified it for this. Your job is simple. You're going to take this thesis and you're going to say an Island Morning by Jamaica Kincaid uses compare and contrast to express to her audience that what is the meaning she's trying to get to? What idea is she trying to express? Is it something about what makes a home? Is it something about why Antigua's better than Manhattan? Whatever you want to call it, something. Okay, express some kind of idea that she likes Antigua more than Manhattan, something to that effect. And then what you're going to do is use 2 sets of examples. If you want to do just contrast, fine. If you want to tell me on page 562, Kincaid describes in this line that this happens in Antigua, and we contrast that with in Manhattan on page 564, this line, it's like this, and this is how they're different. Cool. It's really not much more than that. Okay, I want 4 cited examples, but each 2 have to work together. Okay, so if you want to just contrast, Antigua does this, Manhattan does this, that's 2. And then Antigua does this, Manhattan does this, that's 2 more, and you're done. So really just fill out this thesis, have 2 examples of compare or contrast, or just contrast is fine, between Antigua, Manhattan, brief explanation, done. This whole thing isn't more than about 5 or 6 sentences total. Again, respond to that in the comments under the thread, and then you've got another week's worth of work done. All right? Any questions, email me. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy.